Welcome to the Gavel. I'm Linda Akibi. The Central Bank of Nigeria announced a new withdrawal of cash policy during the week. Now, under the new policy, which takes effect from January 2023, the Apex Bank is putting restrictions on how much cash Nigerians can withdraw over the counter through automated teller machines and the POS. And just like the introduction of new Naira notes by the CBN, this policy is generating debates across the country for and against the move. The Senate and House of Representatives have intervened, and the House of Representatives has asked the CBN to suspend the policy on cash withdrawal and has also invited the CBN Governor, Mr. Godwin Emefiele, for further discussions. The Senate is yet to take a position on the matter, choosing instead to hold a debate on the policy on Tuesday, December 13th.
On Wednesday, December 7th, the Senate Minority Leader brought to the attention of the upper chamber the Apex Bank's latest policy on cash withdrawal. He wanted the Senate to debate the policy.
Mr. President, just to say that they rolled out lots of policies, and they rolled out, they said even to take money from the POS will be 20,000 naira, and that the denomination to be put in the POS was going to be 200 naira, and corporate organizations 500,000 naira, and then withdrawal of money to the tune of 5 million from about 600 branches with about 35-40 million customers. We'll have to go to the banking headquarters for approvals. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, our commerce, I don't think, is ready for this, and our economy might not take this shock.
However, the Senate President was of the opinion that lawmakers need to be furnished with more details on the policy before debating it.
I will advise that these two deputy governors have been in the CBN for the last 4 or 5 years. So they are part of this system. They are not new people. When they come for screening, this is supposed to constitute a major... Just hold on, please. Just hold on, please. Let me talk, please. This is supposed to constitute a major issue to be raised before them. You can come with a motion, but I want us to be properly informed and properly guided. Most of us, if not all of us here, have not had an engagement with that institution.
But Senator Gabriel Suswam was insistent that the debate on the policy should not be postponed.
I couldn't sleep. My phone was inundated by calls from constituents who, like you rightly observed, are outside the formal sector but are the one controlling businesses around. Mr. President, we need to see the movement. If we wait, people are extremely very worried. And so I believe, Mr. President, that you would have allowed us to discuss this thing for the sake of Nigerians, because we represent them.
We are not happy with what it is, but when we debate, we should have solid grounds. And I believe that at the moment, my personal opinion is, if we want to be a cashless society, we should take time to be a cashless society, not to jump at once into being cashless. Most Nigerians will be out of business.
The debate on the new policy is set for next Tuesday, December 13th. Under the new withdrawal policy from January 2023, the CBN is restricting maximum cash withdrawal over the counter by individuals and corporate organizations per week to 100,000 naira and 500,000 naira respectively. The new withdrawal regime further sets the maximum cash withdrawal per week through automated teller machine at 100,000 naira, subject to a maximum of 20,000 naira cash withdrawal per day. However, in the House of Representatives, the lower chamber asked the Central Bank of Nigeria to suspend the new policy on weekly cash withdrawals by individuals and corporate entities. The lawmakers also summoned the CBN Governor, Mr. Godwin Emefiele, over the new policy scheduled to take effect on January 9, 2023. These decisions were taken after a member raised a point of urgent national importance on the new monetary policy from the Central Bank of Nigeria.
It bothers whoever is sitting in this place, because most of them are from rural areas. Everything is being done in naira and cash. And somebody will wake up, it's like he owns this country, and make a policy that will start tomorrow. No consultation. People are forgetting that 80 or 90% of the people are not in rural areas. So we must do something to save the situation.
Some of his colleagues spoke about the impact of the policy on their constituents.
More than 70% of our communities in this country do not have banking system. Few states, Lagos, Rivers, Kano, Delta probably, might boast of about 70 to 75% coverage in banking system. Yet, the CBN under Almighty Emefiele woke up and introduced this very heartless, as far as I'm concerned, decision.
If you want to stop banditry, make it impossible for them to have cash.
So you're speaking against the motion?
There shouldn't be cash available for them. That's one. Two, we passed the law on this floor. It's our law. The fact that CBN all this while had been sleeping and never went into their law, the law passed, and ensured that they follow it to the letter, didn't mean that it wasn't there. The law is there. They are only now waking up and now implementing what we sent out to them.
The Speaker of the House asked Mr. Emefiele to appear before the lawmakers.
I think you will allow me to speak to the Senate President and see whether, in compliance with the Act, we can have a joint session. And this is important enough.
The lawmaker said Thursday, December 15, 2022, for Mr. Emefiele to appear before them on the issue.
The Minister of Finance, Mrs. Zainab Ahmed, has been facing different committees in the Senate to explain the insertions of some funds in the 2023 budget, notably in the budget of the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs. She was before the Senate committees on special duties and appropriations to explain the nature of the funds and what they are intended for.
The finance ministers before the Senate Committee on Special Duties to explain the insertion of 206 billion naira in the 2023 budget of the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs. The humanitarian minister, Mrs. Sadiya Farouk, had told the committee during her budget defense session in November that she needed further clarification from the Minister of Finance on the sum of 206 billion naira in her ministry's budget. The finance minister explains that the amount was approved by the Federal Executive Council, but the error was in the manner it was captured in the ministry's budget.
The National Social Safety Nets project, which sits in the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development. This project was correctly described in the submission that went to the Budget Office from the department in the ministry, but regrettably, in inputting the submission, a wrong budget code was selected, and this ended up having the project described as purchase of security equipment in the JIPMIS system.
She knows that the humanitarian minister cannot claim to know about the project for which the funds are intended to be used for, and explained that the funds are bilateral and multilateral loans captured in the budget of the humanitarian ministry for the National Social Investment Program.
The loans for these social investments, they are consumption in nature. They don't seem to me as they are capital in nature. So we are borrowing to consume, although we are investing in the social framework.
Yes, this is a consumption loan, but the Fiscal Responsibility Act says you can borrow for projects as well as for human capital development.
But lawmakers are uneasy at the procurement of loans to fund the program.
You cannot borrow money, like my chairman said, to share to people. It is not in any way sustainable in nature. We must develop a system, maybe from our taxes or from other sources locally, where we can get this money and then give it for the welfare of the Nigerian citizens. Number two, the implementation of these social investment needs. I have seen on television, I will be specific. I have seen on television where the Vice President and the current Minister of Humanitarian Affairs entered into Wuse market or Oshodi market with a bag of money, and they are giving it to women in the market. There is no condition for qualification whatsoever attached to that disbursement, because it was disbursed in the market and the disbursement was impromptu, the identification was impromptu, there was no any arrangement whatsoever.
The committee chairman questions the minister on the sustainability of these loans.
I'm just making, comments, so that we reflect over it, whether, there's an option, rather than borrowing to fund the social, investment program. Why can't we develop a local source of funding?
My personal view, and this is not as Minister of Finance, is no, is not sustainable. And we do hope to be able to exit this. And how do we exit it? By increasing our revenue so that government can use its revenue to provide interventions like this.
Committee members call for a swift passage of the National Social Investment Bill to ensure proper scrutiny of loans used for the program. The NSIP bill passed second reading during the week in the Senate. The Buhari administration created the National Social Investment Program in 2016 to ensure fair distribution of the nation's resources to vulnerable members of society and in the process alleviate poverty. It is hinged on 4 social support programs meant to empower the poorest and most vulnerable, namely NPower, Government Enterprise and Empowerment, National Homegrown School Feeding, and the Conditional Cash Transfer. President Buhari is seeking statutory backing for the program, and he sent an executive bill to the National Assembly for this purpose.
1,632,480 households are currently benefiting from the cash transfer program, while 4,234 have been given productive cash grants of 150,000 naira each. My respected colleagues, the passage of this bill will ensure continuity, sustainability of NSIP as a reliable tool to solve poverty problems in Nigeria.
Lawmakers unanimously support the proposed legislation, but they raise some concerns.
What we had was that people got the handouts, it didn't matter to them, they were just looking forward to more, and there was no arrangement whereby people could be monitored and whatever was given to them could also be monitored. This bill will stop all that.
We want an improvement, or the government wants an improvement in the way and manner the program or the various programs are implemented. Personally, I feel that we really didn't get it right in many ways, because even to identify those who should be beneficiaries, it's a major issue.
You're welcome back to the Gavel. Now let's take a look at some of the major activities in the Senate and House of Representatives during the week.
The armor of the Senate may fall on some federal government ministries. Departments and agencies will fail to appear before the Committee on Public Accounts to explain their expenditure of service-wide votes from 2017 to 2021. The chairman of the Public Accounts Committee is unhappy at what he terms the recalcitrance of heads of 100 federal government agencies to honor invitations sent to them by his committee for required appearance before it to explain their use of service-wide votes.
I have come to you, Mr. President, and today I have come to the floor of the Senate to say, in exercising our duties, we have been inviting agencies of government and accounting officers in these agencies, or in the MDAs, to come and let us know, number one, the queries that have been raised from the Auditor General's reports. From 2015 to date, all the reports that have been sent to us, we have been having the problem. In fact, if you remember, Mr. President, in the 2015 submission that we made of our report, we mentioned that there were some agencies that blatantly refused to appear before the committee.
Chairman, please go straight to the issue.
He wants the upper chamber to take a firm decision on the agencies.
I want to remind us that we are empowered by Section 88 and Section 89 of the Constitution to summon them, even if that will be by way of issuing a warrant that will compel them, signed by you, so that they can appear before our committee and give account of what they are spending on behalf of the members of the public of our country. Therefore, Mr. President, if you don't mind, I have those agencies we have listed out that have become I don't want to use harsh words that they have become recalcitrant, but they have vehemently refused to appear before our committee. This list of agencies, and of course the amount that is attached or that is against their names that they have spent, they are staggering.
The Senate President requests the list of the agencies who have failed to appear before the Public Accounts Committees to defend their use of the service-wide votes and reads out the names of the erring ministries.
Any public officer who accepts to serve and utilizes public fund appropriated by the National Assembly must be prepared to account before the National Assembly. And any officer who feels he or she is above the law should quit. Distinguished colleagues, I think by reading this list in plenary, it gives an opportunity for the agencies to know if they didn't know before, for those that may claim ignorance. And I'm taking the opportunity here to advise that in the next 1 week, if the name of an agency is here, that agency should reach the Committee on Public Accounts of the Senate to sort out when the agency will appear before the committee. If there is no communication whatsoever and no cogent and verifiable reasons are given, we'll slash the budget.
A federal lawmaker in the House of Representatives, Mr. Usman Jaha, says his constituents are still suffering from the trauma of the insurgency in the northeast and the abduction of the Chibok girls. According to him, several women and children die from treatable diseases regularly in his constituency, and he urges the federal government to urgently establish healthcare centers in the area to ameliorate the sufferings of women and children who have the highest population in the area.
We involve all principal stakeholders, particularly the state governors, our distinguished senators, and all other prominent people from Borno to understand the peculiar situation we found ourselves in that part of the country. We are in trouble. We are supposed to be given special attention. And the establishment of such institutions is exactly what is going to give us a sense of belonging, that yes, we are still recognized as Nigerians.
A member of the House of Representatives Committee on Basic Education, Shamsuddin Bello, says state governors must allow local governments oversee primary education. He says without devolution of primary education to local governments, this level of education will continue to decline. A menace has led to Nigeria having the largest amount of out-of-school children in the world.
Allow local governments to be able to channel funds into basic education. That is where a lot of the ignorance is stemming from. Unemployment, mediocre education, insurgency, criminals, drug usage. All these things are stemming from poor basic education. So if we can be able to channel more funds, but those funds should, even if there's not going to be total autonomy of local governments, but let there be autonomy when it comes to basic education with proper monitoring.
The House of Representatives has urged the federal government to reverse its earlier decision to stop work on 1,400-kilometer standard gauge east-west coastal rail line project. Following a motion moved by Mr. Dozie Nwankwo and unanimously supported by members, the House urged the federal government to continue the implementation, considering the economic importance of the rail project to the nation.
The House is worried that the non-completion of the rail project, which aggravated the problem of travelers who suffer delays due to the deplorable state of the road, coupled with checkpoints along Calabar-Lagos road. Considering that the inability to complete the project within the period projected 6 years period way, continue to put pressure on the two seaports located in Port Harcourt and Lagos and the existing roads.
Meanwhile, the House of Representatives has urged the Federal Ministry of Petroleum Resources and the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited to conclude the ongoing geophysical survey to ascertain the availability of hydrocarbon in commercial quantity in Bida Basin in Niger State. The House adopted the motion moved by Mr. Musa Abdullahi in plenary after he had notified the House that the NNPC had launched a seismic data acquisition in the Bida Basin in 2020, thereby commencing oil exploration activities that could add about 40 billion barrels of oil to Nigeria's reserves. The motion scales through as the sponsor argues that studies reveal a strong presence of hydrocarbon-bearing indicators, which confirmed oil and gas-bearing formations in the area, coupled with the discovery of hydrocarbons in Chad Basin and Kulmani River.
Expecting that the Federal Ministry of Petroleum Resources and its relevant agencies will expedite action for the continuation of the oil exploration activities at the Bida Basin, Niger State, and other basins in the country. Further aware that President Muhammadu Buhari has directed the NNPC management to fast-track oil exploration across the country, following Shell's discovery of hydrocarbons in the Chad Basin and Kolmani River, while the NNPC heeded the President's directive on the Chad Basin the people of Niger State are anxious about the slow pace of oil exploration activities in the Bida Basin.
Meanwhile, the Deputy Majority Leader of the House of Representatives went on a 3-day oversight visit to Gbaramatu Kingdom in Delta State to assess the progress made so far in the move by the NNPC to secure its pipelines. The lawmakers backed the partnership between the NNPC and the private security outfit to secure all pipelines in the Niger Delta.
The good thing is that while this is happening, we have also seen efforts by people around the communities to stem the tide and change the narratives in such a way that Nigeria will begin to benefit more from the avalanche of oil blessings in our country.
I've been here like 2 months ago or 3 months ago, prior to Tantita's coming to play. You will know what I'm about to say. The degradation, what we suffer, the spill, the aquatic damage, aquatic life damage, no farming, no fish. But just for 3 months, we've seen a clean environment. It shows that it's a departure from where we used to be, so we're making progress. But what is most important is that sustaining this progress is important.
Federal lawmakers are charged to provide necessary legislative instruments and policies which will sustain the gains recorded so far.
Thank you very much for coming. And I think I will not disappoint you. We will do our part this way. And I still want all of you to do your own part over there.
Now, this is where we call it a day on this week's edition of The Gavel. If you have any views on any of the issues discussed, please email us on thegavel@channelstv.com. Thank you for staying with us and see you again next week.